Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to yet again another fantastic indie creator interview. It's your Cape Resayer Cody, and we're keeping it geekly with our returning guest, Wells Thompson. We're here to break down SMUT issue 1 and everything in between, and we are about to get spicy. Wells, what's been up? How have you been since the last time? I know we were backstage trying to figure out when the last time was.
It was either... I think it was either Frankenstein 4 and 5 or Cat Skin. It was one of those. Maybe before that. If it was before that, that's sincerely shocking because I always like talking with you.
I like talking with you too.
Yeah. You want to go somewhere?
Hey.
No. Things have been good. I messed up my foot real bad and quit my job, and that sounds like a bad thing, but it's like it has been great for my mental health, great for my productivity. Been writing a lot, been doing some freelance editing, just been enjoying myself and preparing for these, this and the last Kickstarter that I did, which have eaten up a lot of time, but in a really positive way.
So that would put me in a midlife crisis. I think I'm 34, so I'm right around that age. I'm like ripe for it. But breaking the foot or injuring the foot, quitting the job, like how'd you manage that stress? That would have been like miserable.
Yeah, the stress of how like actually going to the job that I was working was way worse than the stress of like what am I going to do for money. I saved up a little bit of money and just figured out a way to like sort of muscle through the last couple of months, and it's been very freeing. I gotta say. I've gotten a good routine. I've gotten a lot of writing done, and I've gotten just way ahead in terms of what I need to be doing for the business side of comics. So that's felt really, really nice.
What's your secret? Like, because when I had free time like that, it was so hard for me not to like just sleep in, so hard not to stay focused. Like, I would kind of feel myself just wandering like a zombie throughout the day because there's so much to do, but it's like I couldn't focus on a single task at hand. Like, how are you doing that?
Therapy, to-do lists, routines, pretty much. Because I've definitely done that before as well, but that was more like in my 20s kind of thing where I didn't really have any routine and I was just kind of stumbling through the day. But as soon as you put things on paper, like I have to get this done, and then the other part of it is just like comics are just like a razor focus for me. I have been like aiming to do comics as my career for 5 years now, so it doesn't feel like I don't have a job. It feels like I get to work on comics as my full-time job.
You get to do what you love now.
Yeah, exactly.
And you don't have to worry about decompressing. You don't have to worry about being so stressed out that you can't write. We were talking about this backstage too. Like, I'm working so much, like I haven't even had time to dedicate to a script. So that's, it's unfortunate that you had an injury, but it is very awesome that it led to this opportunity, right? That you were able to kind of pursue what you love to do. Speaking of that, we have our cat walking in the back. Oh, I just scared her. Oh my God, sorry. We're here to talk about SMUT, a spicier book coming out from you. And I think it's humorous because your other one, you had Mechaton, which it's totally polar opposite.
I am not known for consistency. Like, consistently good. I hope I'm known for like good writing, consistently good writing, but I don't stick to a genre at all. I love genre fiction, and I always want to do something in a genre, but I always want to hop genres and try something new and do something different. And I can't explain why, but it's never been like a problem of crossed wires. When I'm writing Mechaton, I can write Mechaton and just be fully in like all ages mode. And then I can write something like, Frankenstein or SMUT, or, that's way more adult focused, whether it's with, violence and horror or with romance and eroticism and stuff like that.
Sometimes violence. I don't know. We're not kink shaming here.
It depends on how you define violence.
Safe word, please.
There is a safe word that gets thrown around.
Everyone watching right here is a link to check out this campaign with us. Be sure to back while you can. But if you're unable to afford a back, simply putting this on Facebook, Twitter, word of mouth is 100% free, and it costs nothing to do. What led you to, writing this up? What I guess was the premise of the start of the story for you?
There's so many I don't like to start a story unless I have like multiple reasons that I want to work on it. So it's very rarely one thing. A big contributing factor was I was really stressed out. I was super I had just moved to a new city. Finances were really crunching in on me. I was working a job that was not paying me as much as they said that they would. It really sucked. I was in a bad place, and I just felt like I need to write something. First of all, to take my mind off all of it, I need to jump in and just write something, or I'm gonna go insane. But I also wanted to write something that was more feel good and positive and radically different from anything that I've really done before. And then the other thing was just I've been in the Kickstarter ecosystem for so long. I think that every writer that is putting out Kickstarter comics sooner or later is like, well, SMUT does really well. Let's see how it goes. Like, what would I do with that? And I sort of started it as a probing, like, what would I do if I was going to do SMUT? What would I talk about? And really quick, and I kind of developed some ideas, and really quickly I realized that, I really like this story and I really like these characters, and this is something I'm probably going to have to share with people. When I started it, I did not intend to. I thought I was going to shelve it, and it was just going to be like a fun exercise that I did. And it was only after really diving in, falling in love with the characters, realizing that I had a lot to say on the topic, that, it's always weird to say like, people need to hear, but like I felt like it was something that maybe not everyone gets to hear all the time, like in the specific kind of like sex positive message that I was putting out. Not to say it's 100% totally unique or anything. There are plenty of great SMUT books out there, and I definitely recommend a lot of them. But I knew that I was going to handle it differently than a lot of people, than a lot of what's like out there right now. And so I figured, why not? Let's give it a shot.
So let's just thrust right into it. Different stories have different beats to hit. And to execute them is, a challenge within themselves. What type of beats are we looking at when writing a SMUT story? Like, what I guess is important to make sure you hit to keep the reader reading? Right.
All genre kind of has those questions thrown out there. In fact, I think that's what genre is really for, is like, what is it that the reader is reading for? Not as a hard rule, but with these stories, I wanted like sex to be an active agent in telling the story and in characterizing the characters, like giving them, explaining who they are. So I knew that was going to be a major beat in all of the stories that I was putting out. SMUT, by the way, is kind of an anthology. It's about 3 women, and each issue is their story individually.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, so instead of jumping between all of them, and then there's a lot of setup in 1 and then a lot of payoff in 3, you get a full story, and it all kind of ties back together. So I knew, obviously, some characters were going to bone. And it became a question of like, well, what do I want to say about relationships and people in doing that? For this first issue, it was more of like first date jitters, and sort of personal exploration, I guess. It's not really about a relationship so much as it is about the individual person. She's not in a long-term relationship right now, so it's very much of like, what does, sex for fun look like, and what does it look like when you try, and like, what is a good reason to abstain from having sex versus like a less good reason that you can ultimately like bend on, and it's not morally or personally compromising to do. So to focus in and be a little bit less vague, Dakota starts the story out by saying, I want to go on a date with this guy, and I'm used to just like, no matter what happens in a date, I sleep with the guy. That way I have a good time and I don't have to worry about a date too if I don't want it. But I'm kind of ready to settle down, and I like, if I meet someone that I like, I want to be able to settle down. So I'm setting a personal challenge for myself, just going to get to know him and then walk away at the end. And then the more she gets to know him, the more she realizes there's a lot to find out. She really likes him. He's really interesting. He's asking her questions that aren't super obnoxious. And the question of like, okay, so how does the date end comes up. And there's sort of a back and forth with her, in her own mind of like, well, is the challenge itself super important, or was just the idea of, getting to know him like the more important part of what I was doing here.
So with writing smut, obviously there is some nudity in this. Was that a hard balance of knowing when to show and when to hold your hand?
I've always been, I think of sex scenes a lot of the same way that I think of like action scenes. Like, if we're doing this because the scene has escalated to a point where action needs to take over in one form or another. Mm-hmm. So I think it is difficult to find the challenge or to find the balance, and I've always felt like I've always worried about that I'm not showing enough. I'm not staying in the violence or the action long enough. I'm thinking specifically about like Frankenstein the Unconquered, which is a lot of violence. I always worry that it's.
I was about to. I thought we weren't getting violent, Wells. Like, what is it?
No, like in Frankenstein the Unconquered, I worry about like I'm doing too much talking and not enough action. For this one, I feel like I hit a pretty good balance. It's always hard to say. I don't have a formula of like how many pages is showing and how many pages is like building tension. But I think a lot of the appeal of erotica, of smut, is building up to that tension, teasing it, getting the audience invested so that when we're finally showing, it feels really, really earned. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I definitely wanted to aim very explicit, but I didn't want to like make the entire book just, for lack of a better term, porn. Like I wanted you to really be invested in Dakota and her friends and her date and how it's going to go and her inner conflict before we reach the point where the dam breaks and we can, enjoy the payoff of that.
So, I mean, outside, I guess, we're both grown, so personal experience, was there any sort of like
stream? Let's throw that out there.
Yeah. So
I feel like that maybe should have been mentioned earlier.
We did some fucking, but outside of that, I mean, what type of research or, did you read like smut, previously to prepare for it, or like how did you get into the role of writing this?
I wouldn't say necessarily it was like research, but it feels like a slow culmination of like, how in hindsight everything seems obvious, but like one of the first really big reviews that I did for Comic Book Yeti was Money Shot. And that comic really blew me away because it does what I think erotica should do, in that it uses sex to build up the characters and to tell the story. It's not just a thing that happens, it's core to the conceit of the story being told. It's also really funny and clever. If you haven't read Money Shot, 100% recommend. And then as I've been doing this, as I've been getting more involved in the comics community, reading more, I read things like Sunstone, Saga, Sex Criminals, really great books. Lovesick, more recently, really great books that sort of base themselves around sex, not as like filler content, but as really engaging with what it is. And then I think the thing that broke the dam of like, I should really try this was Natasha Alterici put out a little 16-page short comic called Art Appreciation. And I was just like, this feels super freeing and joyful and like expressive to do. I would love to explore this a little bit more. On the personal side of things, I don't know how to talk about this without seeming, I don't know, braggadocious, arrogant. I don't know. I've had a really good relationship with my wife, and from her perspective and from like the people that I've met through her, there's always this sort of lingering question of like, so how do I find a guy that's more like you and less like every other piece of shit that I've dated in the past? And I'm
it has to be
like,
therapy, right? I don't meet many other dudes that like go to therapy.
Go
they're
to therapy.
about therapy.
Hey, if you're listening to this and you're thinking to yourself, I would like to be more in tune with, I want to connect with women more. I want to be more successful with women. Go to therapy.
Well, not even that. Just fucking work on yourself. Take a moment to work on yourself. Everyone has some shit that's like a little fucked up. Like
Absolutely.
if you're a dude, you've been raised to not even acknowledge it. Like it's gonna fucking damage you.
Yes. Which is that would be my first bit of advice. But it was sort of like hearing that for so many years. I guess I was imbued with some sense of authority in terms of like, I know how to talk about relationships and like what healthy communication looks like. And from there, it just sort of evolved into like, well, if we're going to the logical conclusion of this, let's go all the way. And then sort of on the other side of that, it was me being tired of seeing it done poorly. Like I've read a bunch of comics and seen a bunch of like covers and interior samples of books. Not naming names, not judging anybody, but like of books that are essentially pretty standard plots that have really explicit sex thrown in, seemingly purely as like a marketing ploy, just as something to talk about that the book has going for it. And that's probably like, there are probably people who like that a lot. It really doesn't do it for me. So I wanted to read the kind of book that I wanted to write the kind of book that I wanted to read.
So we have 3 different characters that are explored across 3 different issues. Was that hard to balance the cast? I mean, having all these different personalities mingled together in their own, personal problems.
No. I really love writing characters and character drama. So I knew pretty early on the kinds of people that I wanted to deal with. I knew I wanted someone who's very cocksure and a little bit crass and extremely self-confident in Dakota. The first thing I wrote for SMUT, if you look on the sample pages, I think it's the first panel that you see in the snippets is the title cards for each of the characters. And Dakota, or for Rita, it's has to be the cutest person in the grocery store. Do not perceive her. For Jess, it's sit up straight, mother is speaking. And for Dakota, it's not from either Dakota, stop asking. Jess is like I knew I wanted to deal with like 3 very starkly different personalities and then bring them together and make them friends and make the reader go, how do these people work and how can I achieve something like that? that kind of very sincere, tightly knit friendship that develops really only from people who are extremely dissimilar.
We have J. Michael Miller over on YouTube. Great preview pages. Those Rumboli covers and a crossover print with CJ's book, Who Could Resist? Thank you for joining us, Jeff. Hope you're having a fantastic night. Speaking of that, I mean, these characters, their designs are gorgeous. We have one with a with shorter cap tattoo. I'm sure the artist loved you for doing that. Can we shout out the artist and the creative team?
Okay, so I think it's just a rule. I have to do something in every book that's going to make an artist hate me. Yeah, for Catskin, poor Rachel. The first half of that book is just in an arena with the crowd behind them at all times. I'm just I'm sorry, you can get a little abstract with backgrounds. I didn't mean to do 30 pages of a crowd shot. That's my bad. Yeah, no, it was supposed to be originally a cute, a full sleeve and then more tattoos on the body. And my editor, Krista, said, hey, maybe don't. maybe just the shoulder is enough. And I was like, yeah, good call. That's probably a good but yeah, no, that design is really striking, and I really liked the idea of the tattoo on the shoulder, especially the tattoo and the green hair contrasted with a character that clearly cares about personal fitness and is super buff. That just really appealed to me, that kind of combination. And Bianca Milana is the artist on this book. Totally nailed the look. I was really blown away by all the detail and character work they were able to put into everything.
So what about the rest of the creative team? Who do we have on letters?
DC Hopkins on letters. He has been on so many books, it's kind of hard to list out specific ones, but yeah, he's I think he's either the lead letterer or he's the president and CEO, I don't remember which, of And World Design. So anytime you see that, it's him or someone that he works very closely with. Recommended to me by a friend, Alex Breen, and yeah, he's so effortlessly talented at in that you don't see there are no growing pains. He just jumps in and he's like, hey, does this style work? And you're like, better than anything I imagined in my head.
And then you also have a co-collaboration as well with the writing, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. So my wife Brianna is co-writing this, and we did that for a number of reasons. She has a history with writing. Okay, she's not paying attention. I'm gonna shame you now. She did a novel length Oron High School Host Club SMUT fic in late middle school, early high school. Oh, sorry. The smutty Oron fic was short. Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood was the long one.
Oh my gosh.
So she has been kind of deep in the sauce for a while now, but that's always been
the anime fanfics is the real deal, though. That's the OG stuff.
No, that's right there. I'm not. There's no shade at all. I respect her so much, but yeah, she sort of put that aside to focus more on her career. She's a scientist. She is brilliant. She supports me and helps me make my dreams come true. So I support her in everything she does. The other element of it was there are queer characters in this book, and for something as sensitive as erotica, we wanted to keep it as authentic as possible. She is bisexual. She has dated women, and I felt like it was important to bring that voice into the book. On top of that, our editor is also non-binary and queer, and I as many points of contact as possible wanted to make sure that it read authentically and wasn't any kind of caricature. So
now that we built up the tension and the hype, let's go ahead and break the dam ourselves and head over to the campaign and check out all the hype. So give me 1 second. We'll get this page added and get this party started. For everyone that is watching, here's the link. Check it out with us. Like I said, if you can back, we would love to see it. But simply putting this on Facebook or, Twitter, anywhere you can, word of mouth is 100% free. And it costs you absolutely nothing to do. So I was checking out the characters myself earlier. All lovely designs. We are looking at SMUT issue 1, a not safe for work slice of life comedy. Personal trainer attempts to clean up her act and get to know her date before jumping his bones. A 32-page comic about trust and sex. $6,160 of an $8,000 goal. 261 backers. Holy crap. And 23 days left to go. I mean, man, this is such a strong start. That's a huge amount of backers. I mean, how are you feeling right now?
Pretty good, pretty positive, gotta say. I'm a data freak, so I know what the metrics are for Kickstarter comics. 75% in the first week, pretty good sign, all things considered. But no, even comparing it to other campaigns, this is poised to be one of our biggest that we've ever done. And my hope is that people love the book and it only grows from here. But yeah, I'm feeling great about it. I think we're going to knock out a couple stretch goals and excited to see what else we can achieve.
So we have Rita, Jess, and Dakota right here. Mm-hmm. Were there any people or actresses or anyone that served as inspirations for these characters?
Mostly it was fictional characters that I was sort of basing the look and vibes on. I went way too hard in putting together character reference sheets for all of them before we got started on the actual art. There were a couple of real life models in there. Kyle, for example, who is Rita's boyfriend, is a little bit based on Adam Scott. Particularly Ben Wyatt from Parks and Rec. That was my sort of starting point on him. But yeah, no, there's, for Dakota, for example, there's a little bit of Ramona Flowers. There's a little bit of Vi from Arcane. There were one or two wrestlers or bodybuilders that we looked at to sort of get the more, buff, shredded look.
Muscle Mommy for sure.
Yeah. For Jess, it was Anne from Sunstone, Hura from Tears of the Kingdom, and Ada Wong from Resident Evil 4 remake was the chief inspiration for that character, which is just a fun combination. I'm really glad it looks the way it is. And then for Rita, what was it? Katie from Seconds, one of the characters from Giant Days, Esther from Giant Days. No, not Esther. I forget their names. I get them crossed up all the time. And then Jubilee from the X-Men. I wanted her characteristic to be her giant hair.
These covers are absolutely gorgeous as well. I'm jealous. A six-pack, I've been going to the gym for 8 months. A six-pack is so hard to obtain.
Yeah, ridiculous.
It's ridiculously hard.
I mean, it's not that it's a fake thing, but you have to dehydrate yourself a little bit to really.
Yeah, and you're cutting calories. You're almost in a calorie deficiency at that point. Yeah,
sure.
Shoo, but these covers are absolutely smoking hot. Let's check out these preview pages as well. One thing I really cherished, I guess, is just how real this felt. This felt like a conversation.
Conversation between friends.
Yeah.
I really wanted to kind of capture the spirit of women in particular, but just any close friends together, just very openly talking about their personal lives. Because when a lot of guys don't experience this, but just the trajectory of my life has put me in a lot of private situations with women who are really close to me, and they open up really quickly. they do not have a filter. So I wanted to kind of show that in a way of just like, yeah, things are said very, very openly. But it also very quickly, builds the characters, explains their conflict, and, I think is quite funny. The way they talk, some of my favorite jokes are just in this one scene. These three people just talking about the problems. It's great.
So I probably should have asked this earlier, but SMUT, the title itself, I mean, that's just so like right on the nose, I feel. Why did you choose that?
I wanted a title that was really on the nose. And I really, I couldn't think of anything better, which is maybe an indictment of me, but in my own capacity. But just like, it started, I think, as a joke of people asking. I would be like, oh, I went out to the coffee shop today and I wrote 13 pages, and they'd be like, oh, what are you writing? And I'd be like, SMUT. Like that's sort of what I've been working on right now. And it just stuck as sort of the best descriptor and the best title. I could have made it like the Sisterhood of the Coffee Shop, but that just felt wrong. I didn't. I just wanted something that was very direct, and moreover, I think, as you noted, I work in a lot of different genres. I work in sci-fi and horror and fantasy, and I just wanted to be able to let my audience know, like, hey, this is what you're in for. Please don't get it mixed up.
So we were talking earlier about having a positive message in this. Is that any sort of spoiler, or is that something that we might be able to touch base upon?
I don't think it's a spoiler so much. I all of the characters are in like various stages of being in a relationship, where they are in their lives, and I think it's all approached in a radically different way. But like the through line, the saving grace of all of them is like really clear communication and like properly exercising trust with people is what winds up making their situations better. For Dakota, it's learning to be a little bit more vulnerable and opening herself up to, a good thing when she sees it. For Jess, it's putting a little bit more trust in her partner to take the reins in the relationship every now and then. She's a very like controlling type A kind of person. So the idea of taking a back seat on anything is a little bit terrifying to her. And it really takes like a very open and honest conversation and actively choosing to let go to reach a point where she realizes she can be a little bit more relaxed and a little bit happier in a relationship.
It's funny. I don't mean to interrupt, but it's funny you said that because, I mean, like in the one panel, like right here, her girlfriend's hands are bound, so it's like she's that way, like in the bedroom too. It sounds like. Yes.
Dawn with a capital D. I love Jess and I love her story. And then Rita is, I mean, when we see her, the very first thing we learn about any of them is that Rita wants to break up with her boyfriend. And the reason is that like she doesn't know how to talk to him, and that's kind of both of their fault. And it again takes like it takes her being vulnerable, and it takes her opening up and really trying to get to the root of it, and not just either cut the cord or bury it and pretend it's not happening before they can really move on and be happy in their relationship.
And that's so hard to do too, is cutting the cord when it needs to be cut. I mean, I feel like that's the subjects you write about just like hit home. I feel like for almost anyone that could pick it up.
Oh, for sure. And that was sort of the intention. Is I think a lot of people go through like their relationships, their romantic lives, thinking that they need, like thinking they can't share it with anyone, thinking they need to handle it on their own. And it winds up causing a lot more grief than it needs to, where if you're a little bit more open and aware and seeking advice and being more open with your significant other, with your friends, you can often find solutions, or at the very least figure out what to do better next time, and not just repeat the same mistakes over and over again, which was something I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about in the book.
So I am very excited to announce that I finally figured out that you could just click on these rewards and stuff, having to scroll through, because after a couple things, it's just like, it takes forever to scroll through.
Yeah,
you can just like click. So let's go ahead and utilize that and go through these rewards. So for just $1, and by the way, while we're here, guys, feel free to pledge. If you see something that you like, don't hold back. Bust out that wallet and make it happen. We have a digital indie bundle. At $1, you get 5 indie comics as PDFs just for supporting the campaign. Digital copy of SMUT issue 1 for $7. So 32 pages of SMUT in high quality PDF form, and then the physical for $14.
I'll take a moment to say the digital copy. You can get it no matter what, but there we, at the suggestion of one of our backers, we added a digital deluxe upgrade that gets you the full cover gallery, gets you a little bit of behind the scenes material, gets you the script to look at. So if you're interested in any of that, that's a small bump as well, or an add-on that you can get for your digital copy if you want, if you're an international backer, for example, and the shipping just isn't feasible. So
we have the first physical coming in hot off the press at $14. Fantastic price on that. We have the starter kit at $25. So some awesome stickers there. What's the cactus? What's that say? I'll be a better person.
Says, I will be a better person for you. Yeah. So when Lance brings, Lance meets Dakota for the first time, instead of bringing a bouquet of flowers, he brings a little mini succulent, a little cactus, as a way of being I didn't want to be cliche, but I figured it would be nice to get you something. And she whispers to the cactus, "I will be a better person for you." Because if you can't tell from the cover, the A cover, Dakota's a bit of a slob. Her apartment's a bit of a mess. She's very into personal fitness, but very not into discipline in other areas of her life. So it was sort of fun to give her a bit of a spark of motivation of I'm gonna get my shit together. If not for this guy, then definitely for this little cactus. It's funny too, because when I went through some of my shit, I got some plans for around the house, and the act of keeping something alive, it helps. There's something there, there's something. No, it helps.
We have the Thirst Trap B cover coming in at $30. Who's the artist on this?
Eileen Wajuja, who is absolutely fantastic. One of my favorite new artists coming up, getting a lot of recognition as well. I'm really glad to see it. She, I believe, is from Indonesia or lives in Indonesia. Incredibly sweet person, really incredible artist, and she was in we've been in a couple of anthologies together. She was in By Visibility, the first issue of our volume of By Visibility, and I really liked her story, but didn't know who she was at all until a couple of years later. So it's kind of funny, we've been bouncing off each other for a little while without realizing it.
And then we have Gym Queen coming in at $30 as well. Very awesome cover. And then the Not Safe for just $10 more. So,
Eliza Romboli, incredible artist. Alice in Leatherland, A Thing Called Truth, and super sweet and professional person to work with. Really put their all into this cover. I have such a hard time deciding between the three because I love all three of the styles. But yeah, I absolutely adore this cover, as in both versions, honestly. The detailing is so nice on both. Plus, we get to see Dakota in her leather jacket, which I love the visual of.
And Dakota without the leather jacket as well.
Also get to see Dakota without the leather jacket, and Lance showing off his best asset.
That cake.
We
have the Not Safe for Work starter kit as well, so you'll get a physical copy. with the not safe for work version, the PDF, both stickers, and then the enamel pin at $55. So awesome pricing on that as well. Everything included for $100, so 25% discount. And then last but not least, Adopt a Page. Give us a little bit about this.
Yeah, so this is sort of my solution for original pages. So one of the cool things about working with traditional art is at the end of it, you have like an 11 by 17 Bristol that you can get the original artwork of a page on, or of a comic. A lot of people love collecting those. Unfortunately, with digital artists, they don't really have an equivalent of that. You can't really buy the original page because the original page was done in a program somewhere. So the Adopt a Page aims to sort of be the thing to fill that void. So what you get is an 11 by 17 print of any of the page. Like, you get to read the book in advance. First of all, you pick a page that you like. It is first come, first serve, so you'll be picking in order of whoever gets it. Mm-hmm. And then you get an 11 by 17 print of that page. You also get your name on the page in the book. So it says adopted by Cody. Exactly.
I think that's the first time I've seen that, where you have the name at the bottom too.
Yeah. I mean, I think I was a little bit worried about it at first that it would be obtrusive, but we've done it in a couple of books and it looks great every time. Part of that is that we have a really killer designer. Shout out to Brenda Snell. They are fantastic. But yeah, you get all of that. So you also get your name at the front of the book as like a special thank you that you adopted a page. Mm-hmm. And you get a whole bunch of extras as well. I believe you get two copies of the book, whatever covers that you want. You get both stickers, the enamel pin, the print, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Awesome.
Plus, of course, the indie bundle.
Wells, you've been on the show before. You know the drill. For anyone who's on the fence about backing, what would you like to say to them to kind of help push them over that hump?
If you're on the fence about backing, I would say this is a book that is lovingly created by creators that want to approach erotica and not safe for work not as something that is just pretty to look at, but something that is going to leave you with a really lasting satisfaction in terms of storytelling as well. Come for the smut, stay because you love the characters. I genuinely believe that's what makes stories great, is people get excited for the genre, people come in, people fall in love with the characters and want to just grab onto them and learn everything about them.
You missed your opportunity to be like, go to therapy.
Do that too. No, that's not what I would say if you're on the fence about buying smut. If you're on the fence about buying smut because you've heard all of this and you're like, I don't need it. You do. That it is very much I think it's a story that everyone can enjoy. If you're balking at the idea of like there being nudity and erotica and sex in it, I totally get it. Not every story is for everybody, and I'm not gonna judge or belittle you for not wanting to experience that. Totally get it. But if you do like, black bag covers and like other kinds of smutty creators, give it a shot. I think you'll love it.
Absolutely. So for anyone looking to do this, I mean, maybe they want to try their hand at smut, what would you say the biggest piece of advice you could offer them would be?
I mean, for doing like erotica and smut specifically, just go for it. Dig deep from your own kind of like, it requires vulnerability for sure. But the more that you go into it with a sense of just, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to do it, I'm not going to be embarrassed by it. The more freeing it is, the better stuff that you're going to put out. I think that it's really easy to get in your own head about whether or not you're qualified, or whether or not it's going to be good, whether or not people are going to judge you. And like, that only serves to limit how much and how far you're willing to go. And ultimately, you'll do the story a much a better service if you kind of commit to saying, it's okay to be a little bit vulnerable. It's okay to put yourself out there. Let's just make it. And if you feel like it's not good, you never have to show anybody. But it's at the very least very personally liberating to go out there and try.
I love it. So outside of creating, what are you consuming? Video games, TV shows, books. When you have time, what are you up to?
Oh Lord, I just read All Against All, Alex Pagnadell and Caspar Wingard. That was a fantastic bit of science fiction that I'm going to be talking about a little bit more in my newsletter tomorrow, I believe. I just read Heart Eyes from Vault. That was a really, really cool.
Oh, that's a good one. That's it's like the invisible, like nightmarish, like whatever kaiju like type creatures.
Yeah, it's these monsters come to invade the world, and there's this one girl that's not afraid of them.
Yes, dude, it was such a badass story.
It's a really interesting, weird story for sure, and I'm still sort of grappling with it. Other than that, I'm kind of circling the drain in terms of like games that I've played. Like right now, I'm replaying Majora's Mask. I just got done playing a crap load of Resident Evil 4 remake. So I'm sort of looking for that. I might go back and finally beat Elden Ring. That's sort of the next. That's the horizon I never quite crossed. Was fully experiencing that game, if such a feat can ever be achieved.
Steam had this sale where they had Command & Conquer Tiberian Sun, and that's been a game that's like 15 years, 17 years ago.
Great.
Oh my gosh! So I just been like doing that.
What other game can you send mind-controlled dolphins to attack? Soviets on Mars. Like, it's so brilliantly ludicrous. I love it.
And it's also like, if you don't know what you're doing, like, you're still trying to harvest stuff, and then the other like computers are like already tech level 10. They're like sending nukes on you, and it's like, I'm just a humble farmer, please.
Yeah, RTS games are brutal. I played way too much Warcraft 3 back in the day, so I'm familiar with and Command & Conquer. Oh no, I was thinking of Red Alert. Red Alert is the one where you send psychic dolphins after people. No,
I think I played that one too. I know one of them you could occupy buildings too, which was a game changer. Like the enemy buildings around you, it was like badass. But with that being said, it is time for us to wrap up. Wells, this was a fantastic conversation as always. Everyone watching, get spicy. Hit this link, back it, make it happen. If you're unable to back, put it on Facebook or Twitter. Word of mouth is 100% free and you have nothing to lose. With that being said, I hope you all have a fantastic Sunday. But most importantly, keep it geekly.
Keep it geekly.